Good afternoon, Mr. Bernau. We welcome your appearance here this afternoon, and we are ready to hear your opening statement.
Thank you, Justice Wiggins. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Secretary Boyd. Thank you all for taking time away from your jobs, your families, and your homes to be here. I sincerely appreciate your service. I am John Bernau. I am a family man, I'm a public servant, and I'm an Iowan. Born an Iowan in Cedar Rapids, 1962, April 12, to William and Kay Bernau. Two great parents who have always made time to be at significant events for their children. And in fact, my father is here today. My mother, had she not passed from cancer 7 years ago, I'm sure would have been here as well. I was raised in Iowa in Crawfordsville, a small town of fewer than 300 residents, a great place to learn and appreciate the great Midwestern values that Iowans hold dear. It was also the place that I first got my real-world experiences. When I was 14 and able to work, I was a carpenter, helping build homes. I was a bank teller. I was a gas station attendant, I was a farmhand, and I was a slaughterer in a slaughterhouse. I've been educated primarily in Iowa, attending and graduating Central College in Pella, Drake University here in Des Moines, and the University of Iowa College of Law. Since graduating law school, I have devoted my entire life to public service. First, serving as law clerk to the former chief bankruptcy judge for the Northern District of Iowa, Michael Malloy, followed by service as a law clerk to Justice Bruce Snell Jr. here at the Iowa Supreme Court, then as an assistant state public defender in Waterloo, followed by county attorney, where I have been most recently elected to my 5th term. As the old dog, so to speak, I have now had newly elected county attorneys directed to me for guidance, and the past 3 district court judges nominated and appointed in the 1st district seem to always end up in Delaware County because they keep telling me that I treat them well and give them good guidance. My service to the people of Iowa has been meritorious and rewarding. I am an Eagle Scout, therefore I am trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I do my best, and I always find a way to do a good turn daily. My community involvement includes service on a number of boards, both private and charitable. I coach several youth sports. I speak frequently with school and civic groups and provide ongoing training to law enforcement. But my most rewarding community service outside the practice of law has been serving as den leader and cub master for a number of years to Cub Scout Pack 35, and as assistant scoutmaster and merit badge counselor to Boy Scout Troop 34. And as a person who routinely deals with criminals, I believe wholeheartedly in the saying, it is easier to build boys than it is to mend men. If nominated and appointed, I will bring to this court a down-to-earth legal practitioner from a relatively small community, thereby providing additional diversity and balance. This is important in any effort to restore confidence lost in our judicial system, as there are a large number of Iowans that still live on farms and in rural communities. And these are people who believe that they have been lost or forgotten by this judicial system. By way of example, some residents in Delaware County have heard rumors in the past that there's a push by this court to build litigation centers and regionalize the court system, and that these regional litigation centers would be built not in rural areas, but in metropolitan areas, further lessening their feelings of significance and worth as citizens in the state of Iowa. We have people that honestly believe our highest court is trying to take away their reasonable access to judicial services. If such a radical change in the judicial system were even just an idea, it is important to include citizens in the discussions and make them feel a part of the process. As a full-time county attorney and former public defender, I am keenly aware that there's an ever-growing number of appeals from criminal matters. Therefore, I can bring to this court extensive experience and expertise in those areas. And while serving as a public, and while my public service practice may not have provided the civil experience that a number of the other applicants have probably touted, it has provided me with expertise and experience in tax law, real estate law, condemnation law, tort law, employment law, and administrative law. I would also bring to the court one additional qualification that I do not believe any other applicant can bring to this court. And that is that I have already demonstrated that I have the knowledge, drive, and ability to do the work of an Iowa Supreme Court justice. They say that there is no substitute for experience. I would agree, and I have it. In fact, I would be surprised if any other candidate has, as an employee of this court, read appeal briefs and trial transcripts, reviewed trial evidence, listened to oral arguments, independently researched the law, participated in a discussion on the appropriate disposition of a matter on appeal, and drafted the majority opinion as I have as a law clerk. On July 10th, 1991, 1 year and 30 opinions, these 30 opinions in this black binder, after I began working for this court, then Chief Justice Arthur McGivern awarded me with a certificate of service acknowledging the contribution I rendered the administration of justice in this state. It was that year with the court that convinced me to put public service ahead of personal financial gain. It was then that my career goal was clear. I would work toward the bench. I've been told by several commissioners that nominations will be based solely on an applicant's merit, but merit is not defined in the application materials. So I looked to a common source, Webster's Dictionary, and saw that it defined it as a praiseworthy quality, character or conduct deserving of reward, honor, or esteem. Black's Law Dictionary does not define merit, but does define merit system and defines it as the practice of hiring or promoting employees, especially government employees, based on their competence rather than political favoritism. Neither of these sources, in my view, provided much guidance. Therefore, after a little researching, brainstorming, cutting and pasting, I would submit that merit, for purposes of the selection process, is the embodiment by a candidate of a demonstrated set of virtues that encompass integrity, which includes intellectual honesty, fairness, and impartiality, legal knowledge and ability, professional experience, temperament, diligence, service to the public, collegiality, ability to communicate clearly, both orally and in writing, and the motivations that underlie seeking of this post. Regardless of which definition you choose, I believe that I have shown that I possess the requisite merit for nomination. In closing my remarks, I would just like to say that I've aspired to ascend to the bench for many years, taking the path of the public servant as suggested by other judicial officers as the means to nomination and appointment. I sincerely believe that I can make my greatest contribution as a public servant from the bench. For years, my father has told me on more than one occasion, "Son, you are the captain of your own destiny." And in the private sector, that holds true. But for positions such as Justice of the Iowa Supreme Court, I cannot be captain because you control the destiny. It takes good, dedicated, conscientious people such as yourselves to recognize the merit and make the nomination. At the end of the interview process, it is my hope that when you reflect back on the candidates, you'll remember the virtue and merit of my hard work and dedication to the public, and will nominate me for the honor of further serving the public on the Iowa Supreme Court. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernau. Have you made application before for other court positions?
I have. I applied for the Iowa Supreme Court back in 1993, I believe, shortly after I had left here. And
2 years out of law school?
Yes. And, of course, was told...
What did my friend Justice Larson tell you?
Your friend Justice Larson says, John, I know you can do the work because you did the work, but you need more time in the soup. You need more experience.
That's Justice Larson. How many other times have you applied?
I've applied for associate positions 3 times, and on 2 of those occasions were in jurisdictions where I was told that even though I applied, I wouldn't be considered because I was not from there. And for 2 district court positions, the last of which was just filled a month ago.
Do you think and I'm not trying not to hog all the time, I apologize. I think I'm sitting up there, so I apologize. But do you feel that the work that you did in the court 30 years ago or 25 years ago is different than the work the court does now?
No, I don't believe the work is any different other than that there's more of it. You still must research the law, try to reach a consensus if you can. I believe that you need to be able to stand your ground if you have a firm belief that the position you are taking is supported by the Constitution or other laws of the state of Iowa. I don't think it's absolutely necessary you have full consent. It's like a jury. You need to be fully and fairly heard, but you should not compromise your position if your position, I think, has merit.
Thank you. Let's go to the left side. Mr. Brody.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. We've heard a lot the past day and a half, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot for the next day and a half over the administrative challenges and the budget challenges of the Iowa court system. You touched on it in your comments, and short of the sky opening up and money falling from the sky, which may not always be the correct answer, I wanted to ask you, what options do you think exist to balance out ensuring access to the courts while also trying to challenge a little bit everybody's desire that every county has a county courthouse and all the services in all 99 counties that we have here? How do we balance that if we make a fairly certain assumption that money is not just going to fall from the sky?
That is a very fair question. One of the only ways that I can think of is you have to raise fines. If you're going to commit the crime, you don't necessarily have to do the time, but you got to pay. Regionalization itself, while I think is a lofty goal, is just going to put an imposition on too many people to try to get to those centers, and in fact that they would be built. I don't know if there's a compromise such as you combine courthouses in 2 adjoining counties. I think there are a number of options that might be available, but you got to include the public. You have to get their input. I don't know it all, have never claimed to know it all, but you would be surprised at what the public will come up with if you even give them a suggestion box. And I think we should be open to everything.
Mr. Holmes, I'm sorry, I was writing something
Thank
down.
you, Justice Wiggins. Mr. Bernau, let me start out by apologizing that we weren't able to get together for an informal interview before today. But I was, in looking at your application, you obviously have a unique set of skills, having extensive experience in both defending the accused and in the prosecution of crimes within the state. I'm curious as to how well you feel the Iowa legal system provides for the defense of the accused. And if you were appointed to be a Supreme Court justice, are there things you think can be done to perhaps improve the defense of people accused of crimes within this state?
As a former public defender, I can say that first, it saves the state money. I realize that there are private practitioners out there that might rely on court appointments as bread and butter, but if you're looking for cost savings and good attorneys to handle the work and have them work in a specialized area, public defenders are a great place to start. Defendants in the areas that I practiced in, that would be Waterloo, Grundy, and Buchanan, got great legal service. I love to challenge the state's trial informations. I picked through things. They got a good defense. I can't say all public defenders do that. I work with a very good public defender that comes out of Dubuque in Manchester. But I think we need to ensure that those people that are on, for instance, the state payroll, aren't just on the payroll to collect the check, but are doing the work.
Any questions on this side of the table? Ms. Walker?
Thank you for coming, Mr. Bernau.
Thank you.
My question would be from, I would say I have a more general practice, and excluding your work as a law clerk, it appears that a majority of your work has been in the criminal aspects. I know that as county attorney, you probably do some of the land use or civil portions, but can you talk to us a little bit about how you feel you could get up to speed on the other issues of law that come before the court, such as family law issues, personal injury, workers' comp type issues that come before the court that you haven't dealt with in the past?
Sure. I don't believe any attorney is the type of person who knows it all. You have to know where to look. That's why we have the code. That's why we have the Northwest Reporters. That's why we have Westlaw, Lexis. I was fresh out of law school when I was working for the Supreme Court. I got a lot of direction from former Justice Alvarado as well as Justice Snell. It's all in the research. If you don't know the area of law, you find it and you apply it. It's really just that simple. I thought I did that very well. The opinion I am most proud of having drafted is the one that's in my writing samples. And my directive was simple and clear. Hearst Corporation has the wherewithal to appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court. You make sure it's appeal-proof. They appealed it. Cert was denied. I thought I did well. I knew nothing about that area of law when I drafted it.
Any other questions on the right side? You have a question, Steve?
No.
Let me ask a question. This court decided a case last year where we held that the caps on the public defender were not constitutionally permissible because they prevented defendants from getting their right to counsel under the Iowa and United States Constitution. The legislative response so far has been to any money that costs above and beyond what's appropriated comes out of our budget. How do you deal with things like that if you're on the court? And you're pretty well versed in criminal area, so do you have any suggestions, or maybe you don't?
My suggestion is you pay the attorneys for doing the work that they've done. When you're talking about criminal law, you're not talking about, hey, somebody parked their garage halfway on my property, I want it moved. You're talking about people's lives as far as their liberties, locking them up. And they need the resources, if they have them, to defend themselves. Attorneys need to be paid. The Constitution says that these individuals are entitled to counsel. I'm not sure where the money comes from, but...
It comes out of our budget right now.
Well, right, no, but I mean, as far as additional monies, once the cap is hit, if an attorney needs the money, and it's a case-by-case analysis, if they need the money, they should get the money to ensure that the constitutional rights of the accused are going to be protected.
And one other thing I want to observe, you talked about raising fines. The legislature's done that the last 7 years, and there's hundreds of millions of dollars that the judicial branch gets yelled at for not collecting. You know, for every person in life in prison, there's a $150,000 restitution fee. I don't know at 2 cents a year how they're going to pay it back. But, you know, most of the people are indigent. They get attorneys, and then we charge them for their attorney fees afterwards if they lose. And if they win, we charge them for some attorney fees. We're having trouble collecting it now. I mean, how are we going to collect it in the future by raising fines?
That is a fair question. Most of the fines that I deal with are OWI fines. You know, you get your speeding fines. If somebody's committed a theft, I generally do not ask the court to impose a fine because we aren't going to get that. And why make more work for the court? The mandatory fines, we do collect. I have the court set review hearings on a regular basis. The judges don't like me doing that. They would prefer we turn them over to collections. But the coercive power of the court is actually a very good way to collect fines, and we do very well in Delaware County.
I wish the rest of the counties did as well. Any other further questions? Mr. Cook?
Thank you.
I keep forgetting you, I'm Park.
That's all right. I've had my share of time. Just a quick question, Mr. Bernau. I know your brother. He's a businessman and a lawyer, and I think I've met your father, who's been in the banking business for many years. You've chosen a different path, public service. Why is that?
It was my time here at the court. Just really that simple. I felt like I was making a significant contribution to the citizens of the state, and so I chose that path.
Anybody else? I'm sorry if I cut anybody off. Thank you very much, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.